Welcome everybody to the Helpful Village release webinar, April 17th. Actually, we call it release webinar, but today there is so much information we need to give you that we're not going to be talking a lot about improvement, but about things you need to do or need to understand to manage. First of all, your domain name and your Mailchimp and mailing list and subscription. So part of the meeting today is changes that you need to do to make sure that your members and volunteers and your mailing list keep receiving those messages. So there's things to do like authentication of your Mailchimp domain and things like that I'm going to be showing. And part of it is training, understanding some of the terms that exist. So you don't need to change them, but you need to understand them because there are, statuses in Mailchimp with subscribed, unsubscribed, clean, etc. So I thought today I prepared a lot of material to try to clarify things, answer questions. I have a lot of material that I try to keep going and showing, kind of mostly uninterrupted. But if there is an on-point question that is in the chat, or you can always unmute yourself and ask the question if it doesn't, if it's on point, if it doesn't break the flow of the presentation. But let's get in there. Okay, first, before we go into that session, these are quick reminders. Today is April 17th. This is a Helpful Village webinar. There is another webinar for release webinars similar to this one, but for the new features on May 15th. And then there is a V2B hosted webinar for Q&A next week, April 24th at 2 p.m. Eastern. And these are a couple of useful resources, the Help Center, Slack, and the training documents. These are the links where you can find those resources. For the webinar next week, we like collecting questions ahead of time. So if you have questions that you want to see discussed in the Q&A webinar next week, please send them to Gary Frankel, who's our national coordinator. You can reach him at hvusers@v2vnetwork.org. When he gets those emails, he shares, he organizes the questions, so it's really useful, and then discusses with us, send the question ahead of time so that we can try to think about good answers for those questions. So as soon as you have questions, please send them to Gary, and we can start thinking about how to answer those next week. This is just a reminder of the Help Center. A lot of the answers to questions you might have might be on this website that you can find at support.helpfulvillage.com. So we invite you to go there and also submit your tickets via the platform, because if you do that, essentially, you might find the answer before submitting your request, because it's an interactive knowledge base. These are two websites where you can submit different things. For bugs, please go to support.helpfulvillage.com and submit a ticket. And then if it's an improvement idea that is not something that is broken, but something that could be added to the platform, you go to this other different URL, which is ask.helpfulvillage.com. So this is the reminders part. Now we get into it. Everyone take a big breather, because today there is some fun stuff. And today the session is going to be more technical than it usually is. So I understand that I'm a software engineer. Not everyone on this session is a software engineer. So I'm trying to simplify the concepts as much as possible and start from the beginning. But you let me know if you have questions, something is unclear, I can definitely clarify. I'm bringing some of these topics not because I wanted to, but because we had to. And this becomes very obvious with the next one, Google domains. We were recommending villages to purchase a Google domains on domains.google.com because it was a very nice website, except Google is no longer doing this. They sold Google domains to Squarespace. Boo, Google, bad idea. So things are happening. We need to discuss those so that you understand what's going on. They did the deal many months ago, right? But they had not changed anything technically. Google was running the domains, configuration was all on Google. But I have told you in previous webinars that I was sure, and it's happening now, the settings are moving from Google to Squarespace. So instead, you can no longer log into Google for some of your domains. You will need to log into Squarespace to do some of the similar job, and I want to show you how to do it and some of the challenges, some of the things. So we'll start. This is Google domains, and we have to, because this is a change that is happening with your accounts. And then after that, we have another discussion about Mailchimp, which, as you know, is also a big technical complex topic. So everyone, big breather, it's gonna be fun. I received this email, right? And maybe not all of our customers may have received this email, right? But Squarespace and Google, they both sent me an email saying that the migration of the domain had happened. If I log into Google Domains, I don't see my domain name there anymore. It has been transferred to Squarespace. I have a few print screens to show you. First of all, don't worry too much. It's not too bad. Usually what happens here is that, I mean, everything keeps working because they made a deal. So they got all the settings you had in Google, right? And all the values pointing the traffic of your domain name to your website. Then now it's operating on a different server under Squarespace. So it's kind of more of an administrative change than a technical change. But this is happening. Now, as I was saying, they do this by batches. So maybe you have not received this email yet, right? Because I have several domain names. I have received this notification for some of them, and I have not received for some others. But if you have not received it yet, I'm sure it's coming. So let's discuss all this. First, why did Google sell Google domains to Squarespace? First, bad idea. Google, don't do this again. I hate they did this. Essentially, but now I want to understand why did they do that? Essentially, it was a service for the internet community, right? They made it easy to purchase a domain name that we were paying $12 a month. So very little. We can manage these settings for the DNS settings that maybe you know about. Where do we put the IP address of the Helpful Village server? We were doing all of that in Google, but they made no money on this, right? They were just charging $12 per year. So essentially for Google, it's like, okay, we're doing this because we're nice, but let's cut this because this is not giving us any money. Let's increase our margins and profit. I think they shouldn't do it. It's like, Google, why do you want to make so much money? You have enough money already. So keep helping us with this. But they didn't. Someone in the finance department thought that they could make more money if they sold this to Squarespace. So next part of the question is, why did Squarespace buy the domains department of Google? First off, the prices are going up. Now, I think we will all survive because the prices are going from $12 per year to $20 per year. But it's a sign. Not great, still affordable, right? I think everyone should, it's still a good investment to have a domain name of your own. And if it costs 20, I guess we should pay the 20. But Squarespace is doing this, but it's not the main reason. The main reason that Squarespace is actually a company that sells websites and stuff like that, right? So essentially, while they purchase the domain name management from Google because they want to sell you other crap. They want to sell you a website, a certificate, whatever other stuff that you kind of, I don't know, Office 365 for your email and stuff like that. A lot of confusion. That's the other reason why I hate this so much. It's like Google was not trying to sell you anything. See what I'm saying? They were not trying to push any of their products so that they make more money on you. Not everyone was on Google domain. Some people were with GoDaddy. GoDaddy is the same crap. You buy a domain name and they're trying to sell you a ton of stuff that you don't need, usually confusing people. So for me, it's just bad business practices. But obviously it explains why they do it. Our recommendation is that, okay, if you have your domain name with Squarespace, it's fine. If it goes from 12 to 20, I think the $20 per year, you don't need to pay it right away. If you had paid before, right, and you had an expiration date for your domain name, it will still stay the same. So, even if they transfer, they will keep the expiration date you had for your domain. I think the first year they're not charging 20, they're charging something like 12 or 13, but they are crossing that number already. It's kind of showing like, okay, we're going to do 12, 13 this year, but next year it's going to be 20. Anyways, if it goes to Squarespace and we're going to still be discussing this topic, that's fine. I don't have a problem with the domain name being with Squarespace. Just please be careful not buying any of the other stuff they try to sell you because it's kind of a scammy practice, if you ask me. By the way, Google is hosting, will be publishing this on YouTube. So, be super nice to Google from now on. They're a good company, just hate they made this decision. Now, there's a couple of problems. First problem, Squarespace. I transferred some of my domains ahead of time because I wanted to run a few tests. I didn't like it too much. Even for the domain DNS configuration, one of the things I couldn't do is the configuration of the naked domain. Now, I'll go back to it. It's not a main super important thing, but I'm going to explain what it is, and then I'm also explaining some alternatives. Okay, there are alternatives here. First, if you were with Google Domains, you will be transferred because it's happening. Some of our villages were not with Google Domains. Some of our villages were with GoDaddy or something else. If you were with GoDaddy, nothing changes for you. Though you don't need to care about any of this Squarespace stuff. You only care about this if your domain was with Google Domains before. Now, you can no longer do this with Google Domains. But essentially, Helpful Village will work with whatever registrar you have. If you have your domain name with Squarespace, we will make it work. If you have your domain name with GoDaddy, we will make it work. There's Namecheap, there is other alternative. You can have your domain name on anything, we will make it work. So don't worry. Now, essentially, part of the deal is that you will be if you do nothing, you will be automatically transferred to Squarespace, right? But you can also leave Squarespace. What I did myself, because I don't like Squarespace too much, is like I moved my domain name and I switched to another registrar, and actually the registrar I used, they charge only $10.56 or something like that. Cents, I don't know about the cents, but about $10. They are not charging $20, and it's a little cheaper. Now, the little cheaper, well, it's just a $10 difference per year. Now, the product that I'm using is a super techy product. What I mean is that something that was designed for software engineers like me that are not scared of these 25 other options that they offer for optimization, stuff like that. It's a good company. It's called Cloudflare, and we can help you if you want to see it or something. And what I like about them is kind of some sort of an engineering company. It's like a little bit like us. Like, you know, they do good stuff. They can give you a premium if you want to buy it, but they don't push it onto you. They're not trying to sell you stuff you don't need. You know, they make some offers for optimization, speed, security, and stuff like that are good for engineers. Usually they don't sell to people. So I was also doubtful if you should go to the same domain manager I have, because it's a little techy and maybe don't like it. At the same time, you're not configuring your domain name every day. So maybe if it's a little techy and you do it one day, or you do it with us one time, maybe it's fine. But also
Manuel, one question, please. What a naked domain is? So
yes,
some people have some doubts, so you should start there, right?
It's on my next slide. So I prefer waiting until the next slide because I can explain. I have kind of an example, but it's a great question. So I'll get back to it. Now, the other thing that I'm saying is like, it's totally fine if you stay with Squarespace, as I said before. So no rush. You will take the time. We can discuss next week for Q&A, etc. You don't need to rush about any of this. The only thing that was urgent for me is that you understand what's happening. Let me see. Okay, the naked domain explanation is here. Okay, I can explain here. You see, forget the first and third paragraph, just to answer Christina's question. If you look at the second one, the problems, right? You see an example there. I use marine villages for the example, but it's the same thing for any other village. But basically, the not naked domain is when you do HTTPS. Well, and that's the protocol that is being used. You don't need to type that. But basically, you have www.marinevillages.org. All our villages operate under the www something. You can go to www.sausalidovillage.org or any of the other village. All our villages are always operating under www, which is a common practice on the internet, right? Now, the naked domain is what happens if someone goes to the browser and they just type marinevillages.org or sausalidovillage.org and they didn't type the www, right? Now, those are two different addresses. What I like doing is like, okay, if someone makes a mistake, he forgot the W's, I can do a configuration I used to be able to do on Google Domains. I can do it on Cloudflare. I can do it for you, where basically I make it work. If someone forgot the W's, I'll redirect that traffic to the real website with the W's. See what I'm saying? So I'm a little annoyed that Squarespace doesn't know how to manage the marinevillages.org, whatever, etc. I just cannot make it work on that provider. It's like, so basically your website will still be running under www.yourvillage.org, But if you're with Squarespace alone, and you do your domain management, you can, okay. You may have an issue here, but I'll explain this later because there is a solution. Even on Squarespace, I have a solution. So I'll show you this. Whew. Even me, I'm sweating explaining all of this. Okay, so we were here. The alternatives, good. Okay. I need to go slowly about this. This is a little bit of vocabulary and definitions, because obviously with technology, right, there's always this tech lingo that makes things complicated. I use some of these words because the engineers, we like when the wording is precise, right? So registrar, what is a registrar and stuff like that. So I wanted to share these definitions with you. You can either understand these definitions now, even if it's some of these definitions that are a little tricky, don't worry. This will be recorded, it's on YouTube. We can come back to this and we can answer all your questions next week. Well, let's go with the definitions. First, there's one thing that is called a registrar. Registrar. So a registrar is an organization where you buy your domain name, right? So Google Domains was a registrar. Squarespace is a different registrar. GoDaddy is another registrar. All are different companies where you can purchase a domain name from. Helpful Village definitely recommends that you buy a domain name and you keep ownership of it, okay? Which is the case for all of our customers. Mostly, you all have your own domain name. You wouldn't need it. We can operate a village under something.helpfulvillage.com, but for marketing and branding purposes and for many reasons, I think it's beautiful to have your own domain name. So we definitely recommend you buy it. It's very cheap. It costs between $12 and $20 per year. So if you don't have a domain name yet, definitely get one. If you already have one, good. Now, the register where you purchase the domain name, well, that is great. But when you purchase the domain name, I would almost say almost always comes with the domain name system configuration, which is this DNS records configuration. Okay, now what is a DNS? I know I'm skipping the name server. So I'll get back to the name server maybe, because I want to talk about the DNS record. So the DNS record, you have the long definition here. Basically, domain name, so DNS for domain name system is the phone book of the internet. So basically, when you're a human and you type, right, www.marinevillages.org or sausalittovillage.org, you're not typing the address of an IP address or an internet address or the address of a server, right? You're typing the address of a brand, right, or a website. So basically, when it says a phone book, it's just that it's a stupid system that says, okay, if I type www.marinevillages.org, where can I find the server that has it? In our case, right, the configuration we're doing is that, okay, if someone types www.marinevillages.org, then we take that traffic to the server that is called Helpful Village Secure System, whatever. So basically, it's a way to tell, okay, the traffic that arrives to this domain name, to what machine do we send it? That's what's the definition of the phone book. Okay, we receive a request. Where do I take, where can I find the information or the text and pictures for this website? And basically the DNS record is saying, oh, you can find it on this server, okay? Which is the Helpful Village server in our case. Now, there are different types of DNS records, right? As you can see on the right, there's A record, CNAME records, MX records, TXT records. Doesn't matter. That's a technicality that is not all that important. What is interesting is that MX records stands for mail exchange, right? Because with your domain name, we recommend that you have two different things. The A record and CNAME record are gonna control the traffic to your website, right? What happens if someone types www.marinevillages.org? That's the A name and CNAME, and we need to put there the name of the Helpful Village machines and stuff like that. But then something similar happens with the emails, right? When someone sends an email to colin@marinevillages.org, right? Well, we need to, basically the internet needs to know where do we send that email to. And basically that is something that is done with an MX record, and MX stands for mail exchange. So basically any emails that come to the domain name, who's managing email for this organization? In many cases, right, what we recommend at Helpful Village is that you use Google Workspace, which is essentially Gmail, right? So what we do as a configuration, we invite you to do is like, okay, all the email, if you're using Gmail, right, we're gonna say, okay, all the emails that are received, then send them to the Google server that is managing Gmail, right? And then basically your email goes that way. So basically DNS applies for the internet traffic, That can be through the browser, but can also be for emails. So if you have your own domain name, you need to have different type of settings, the CNAME, MX records, etc. You can also have some other type of records, kind of text, which is not related to traffic, but is used sometimes for other things, like authentication. For example, if Mailchimp wants to know if you're the owner of this domain name, they're gonna tell you, okay, can you please copy this very long line of characters? If you can put it there as a text record, then we know that you're the owner of this domain name because you could change those settings. Okay, next thing, there is another thing that is called a name server, okay? Name servers usually also managed by the same register. So a name server is complete, it's just something as stupid as the machine that keeps the DNS records, right? So basically, and you can keep the DNS records on a server that has all so it's just a holder of the records. So basically the domain, the DNS record is www and the name of the machine. And then where do you find those records is on a name server. I don't know how to explain this in any more simple terms. But I understand it's not simple, everything that I'm saying. So it's a lot. Okay, here, this is for our customers, right? What Google Domains used to look like, right? So you could go to Google Domains, purchase your domain name, and then you could go into the DNS and you could enter the same thing that we're seeing here. You see, on the top right, I mean, you go here and then basically say, okay, all the traffic that goes to www, you see that here with the CNAME record at the bottom? Say everything, if anyone on the internet types www.ashlandathome.org, then with this type, doesn't matter, the 10 minutes doesn't matter either. Well, then you send all that traffic to this machine. And this is the machine where Helpful Village is living. So basically helpfulvillage.security, and this is a very long machine on Amazon AWS. So basically anyone on the internet that types that address, well, then basically goes to the Helpful Village server. And they have a TXT record here. And this is the exact, basically because at one point, Google needed to know that they were the owners of this domain name. So they asked Ashland to add this long list of text, etc., so that Google would know, yeah, you're the owner of this because you could add this record here. Okay, now this was with Google Domains, as I said before, and they said that they sold this to Squarespace. So the same settings you had in Google Domains will now be visible here, and this is Squarespace, right? So it looks a little different because the designer was different and they wanted to make it, I don't know, let's say prettier or with different colors and stuff like that. But basically when you log into their account, you will find the exact same thing. You come in, you go to the DNS settings, and in the DNS settings, you find, well, the address, this is an internet address of a server. And then basically you see the MX records here. This is basically for this domain name. We are managing the email through Google, right? And these are this Google server that is managing Gmail. So you need to have several records there for the MX records. Now, all of this is already set up for your village, most probably. So you don't need to change anything. Just explaining to you what happens. You will see here that on Squarespace, there is another area here that is called domain name servers. Because another thing we can do, and I actually like this a lot, is that instead of managing the DNS settings inside Squarespace, what we are probably going to recommend, or we're recommending actually, is that we can manage, Helpful Village can manage your DNS records because it's a lot for you to, eat all of these machine numbers and things. But you can say, okay, this is the name server that Helpful Village is managing that has our domain names. And if you do that, basically, then we can make the naked domain configuration work and these other things work. Okay, so this is a slide that I briefly showed before because I was explaining what a naked domain is. But I have other things to explain here. First, the good news, and I know this is a little alarming today because there is some change related to the domain name and stuff like that. The good news is that when the transfer happens, the DNS records that were on Google Domains will stay the same but they will be under Squarespace. But nothing breaks. So what happened to us for the domains that transfer is everything that was working before still stayed working, right? Now, the naked domain I was not sure because I don't have a naked domain for the thing that I had for in this case. But I think it will most probably still work because I don't think they changed that. Now, still, we will recommend as I was saying before, that we do something about the domain names. And this is what we recommend. Either you can keep your domain name, you can transfer it to something else, GoDaddy or anything else, or you can keep it with Squarespace. That's totally fine with me too. But then if you stay with Squarespace and the transfer happens, I think the easiest is that you talk to us and we are gonna tell you what name server you can use. And then with that name server, you put the name server that we give you, and we manage the DNS records so that we do all the configurations here that are working. Is it the only way to make it work? No, it's not the only way. It's probably just the easiest way to do it for the number of villages we have. So this is it basically for the Google domains explanation. There is no more. This is topic 1. We're gonna move to the second topic. But before we move on to the second topic, let's just summarize. If you're on Google Domains, this will be transferring to Squarespace. No panic, because everything should be working just the same. But when the transition to Squarespace happen, just open a ticket with us, and we will have a recommendation for some changes in the Squarespace configuration that will make the naked domain work. So no panic, but if something happens, just open a ticket with us and we help you with this configuration. Whew. Okay, so that was the easiest topic of the 2 topics I have today. Because Mailchimp is another fun one. Okay, Mailchimp. Is everyone ready for Mailchimp? I know first, I need to crack a joke so that we relax a little bit, everyone that is a little tense. I cannot pronounce the word Mailchimp. So if it sounds a little off, I know it. I just work super hard to say Mailchimp, but there's something wrong about that word. I cannot make it work. So I'll try my best. We recommend using Mailchimp. It's a good tool. It's a legend and it can definitely help villages a lot to do your business, and essentially your promotional business, kind of keeping your outreach and keeping the word out. There is an article here that I will not explain, but you have the link here, Chris. Maybe if you can copy paste this link from, actually you cannot copy paste it.
Okay. Yeah, I put it in the chat, don't worry.
You have it already in the chat, yeah, because you can search it.
I will put it.
Okay. So you can search it on the Help Center, right? The why using Mailchimp. You put it in the chat for people that are on the meeting, and then they can click on that one and look at it later. This is a longer explanation why we recommend using Mailchimp. I will not do the longer explanation, but I do a shorter explanation. First, we strongly recommend that you connect Mailchimp to be able to send emails to a lot of people out. Second, we strongly recommend syncing your mailing list. This means that when you add a person into Helpful Village, you can connect your Mailchimp service with Helpful Village for free. There is no charge for the connection. You might have charges or fees for using Mailchimp, and you need to create an account with them. You don't have any charges for the connection between Helpful Village and Mailchimp. Now, once Mailchimp and Helpful Village are connected, the good thing is that you only need to add the person once, and you add this person on Helpful Village, right? If this person allowed or wants to be in the mailing list, basically there is a checkbox there that's called Mailchimp. And then if you do that, basically this person will be automatically synchronized with Mailchimp for you. This means you don't need to go to Mailchimp to add that person. So instead of adding a person in 2 different systems, right, and having to manage their tags and stuff like that, no, you only manage this person in one place. That one place is Helpful Village. Helpful Village is going to inform Mailchimp about what they need to do. Basically, we don't send all the information to the person. Actually, we send as little information as we can to Mailchimp, because for privacy reasons, we don't want Mailchimp to know the address, the postal address of your people, the membership, expiration dates, none of that. Mailchimp doesn't know that. We send the only information we send to Mailchimp, if this person wants to be in the mailing list, is their email address, first name, last name, and the groups and tags they're in, right? So obviously, let's say that they belong to an interest group that is kind of the movie club interest group. Well, then we need to share this information with Mailchimp, because when we're sending an email out to the movie club, well, then Mailchimp needs to know how to send that message out. Okay, slowly here. You can send emails, right, from Helpful Village. We have a module that is called the Email Messenger. That module allows to send emails to the groups that you have previously synchronized with Mailchimp, right? The email will go out via Mailchimp. Essentially, you can compose the message in Helpful Village, and then when you hit send, basically to one of the groups that you have synchronized with Mailchimp, Helpful Village is going to send that message to Mailchimp and going to tell them, well, can you please deliver this to this group of people, okay? Now, if you want, and in some cases can be a good idea, you can also prepare that email and send that email from Mailchimp. I'm okay with that. You see what I'm saying? Mailchimp has its own tools for design, for doing pretty emails, and the editor to add pictures, buttons, stuff like that. In Helpful Village, things tend to be easier to use, right? So our editor has some functionality, but it's not as crazy as the one that it is for them. In most cases, the editor that we have works great. If you want to send an email, you see what I'm saying? If a notification, because I don't know, there is an opportunity to volunteer that needs to be filled out before tomorrow. Well, you don't need a super crazy, beautiful editor. You just need to type the message, and you can type it from Helpful Village. You can also do prettier messages from Helpful Village, as some of our villages do with their newsletters, and that's totally fine. But if the question is, can I send the emails from Mailchimp? It's like, yeah, you can. And I'm making a difference here, because basically I'm saying, don't remove people in Mailchimp or manage the tags in Mailchimp, because if you do that, those will be deleted. Because basically you have two separate databases, right? Helpful Village and Mailchimp, and we need to keep those both databases in sync. So essentially what happens is you have a member, let's say that this member becomes an active member. So basically Helpful Village is gonna put this person in the mailing list or in the group of active members, right? And then when the expiration date arrives, we're gonna remove that person from the mailing list of active members, and then still can be on Mailchimp, but not on the same list. But basically the system needs to know, okay, which one of the sites is right? The changes that happen here or here, what are right? Our choice is that the changes are always made in Helpful Village, right? So when you add a person, if you go to Mailchimp, to your audience, and you add a person on the audience that is connected with Helpful Village will delete that person. So don't add them there, because it's a bad idea. Just add them on Helpful Village. Make sure you do the syncing from Helpful Village to Mailchimp. Now, when it's about sending emails, we don't sync those emails. So you can send an email from Mailchimp. It will go out from Mailchimp. Helpful Village will not know about it, but that's fine. That doesn't hurt my feelings. But just the syncing is really important. Yeah, if you get back to me saying, hey, I had added this person into Mailchimp, and then I can no longer find it, it's like, I know, we are deleting it on purpose, and it's the only way we can make this work. So we strongly recommend you synchronize people, their tags and groups in Helpful Village. For sending the emails, you can use either one, doesn't matter to me.
How do you sync them?
So you can go to admin, people management, and then groups. You choose the group that you want, and the groups are different types of groups. You have the active members is a group under mailing list. You have another group that is a combination of your active members and active volunteers. You have different volunteer activities. Those volunteer activities are also groups of volunteers, right? So you can go to that, for example, your group of drivers, right? Because you have service request for driving, you're looking for a driver. You would go to the group, people management, groups, driver. There is a button at the bottom that says add to Mailchimp. That will add that group to Mailchimp. Then once it's added, the button becomes synchronize this group with Mailchimp. And then once it's synchronized, well, then suddenly everyone is labeled in the right way on Mailchimp, and you can send them a message out either from Helpful Village or from Mailchimp in both cases. So that's a good question. Now, obviously,
Thank you.
so that's how you would synchronize a group. Now, there is more. Unsubscribes, right? So if you are not using Mailchimp, what I was explaining until now is why Mailchimp, what it is, why using it, and stuff like that. Now, this second part is for people that are using Mailchimp, right? Because once you're using it, these are kind of some frequently asked questions or issues that happen out there when using Mailchimp, right? One of the most frequent ones is the unsubscribes. Like, oh, people that are no longer receiving the emails that we're sending them. So this is what we're going to discuss now. So it's a kind of a different section of my presentation. And we're going to talk unsubscribes. We're also going to talk about Mailchimp status lifecycle which is connected. Anyways, let's go in there. Okay, first, if you have been working on Mailchimp, there are unsubscribed is a status. There is another status that is subscribed. There is another status that is Mailchimp cleaned. There is another status that is Mailchimp archived. There is another status that is pending. There is all these 4 or 5 different statuses, and you might be asking, well, why is it so complicated? Can we just have subscribed and unsubscribed and that's it? And I'm going to explain why. Actually, we need more than that. First, we need to take a step back. Everyone here on this call is a good person, right? That is running a good organization with a legit purpose. It's not the case for everyone on the internet. Sending emails is cheap. That's good news because you can talk to your members, to your mailing list. It doesn't cost a lot because basically just a few bits and bytes that go out from a server go to another server. But because it's cheap, right, there's a lot of spammers and scammers and ill-intentioned people that also send a lot of emails out there to catch their targets, right? So basically that is not good. And because there are so many spammers and scammers, something needed to be done to protect citizens, including your members, right? So policymakers, Congress, but also tech companies, right? Google, Mailchimp and all stuff like that. They came up with a set of rules and regulations to fight spam and scams, right? So that makes our life a little harder, but it's for the good purpose. Okay, here are some of the rules. And you might know some of these rules, but it's for those that don't know. First, we want to allow anybody to unsubscribe from a mailing list, right? Imagine that, I don't know, I went to whatever place, or let's say an old school from my daughter, and I was subscribed to the mailing list, but now they're asking, you know, we moved from Utah, they're asking me for donations. Like, no, I no longer want to be on that mailing list because I don't want to be bothered by this other school where I'm not anymore, right? That is asking for donations. I really legit don't want to receive anything else from you. So the internet rules make that, yes, it should be easy for anybody to unsubscribe when they don't want to hear from them. And actually, this unsubscribe is something that should be on the emails. All the emails that go out from Mailchimp will include a link that says unsubscribe. This is a really good thing because that protects people from receiving emails they don't want, right? Now, another rule, subscribers can themselves unsubscribe. In the early days of the internet, you had to contact the sender and say, hey, can you please just get me off your list? Because, you know, I moved to California, I'm no longer in Utah, so, but they would do it or not do it. You see what I'm saying? Like if they had to do something. One of the rules now is that no, you don't need to wait for the sender, right? If you're using a good mailing service like Mailchimp, all your recipients will find this link and they can unsubscribe immediately by themselves. They don't need to ask you anything. And it's a good thing. See what I'm saying? But you need to understand why these rules are there. Now, in general, right? And we definitely want to do this. Sender cannot force recipient to get those emails. Sometimes we might be tempted and say, oh my God, but I know that person. I know her because she's my member. I know she should be on our mailing list. It's good for her. Well, guess what? Don't do this. It's like the recipient doesn't want to receive it. We should never force a person to receive emails they don't want to get. Now, in some cases, first, don't do this ever. Don't. So our people don't do it. I never do this. But now, obviously, let's talk about the scammers and spammers out there, because obviously they don't care if you know about these rules. So what they might want to forcefully send emails to those people, right? Even if they wanted to unsubscribe, but if those are ill-intentioned kind of hackers, they will still send the email out. But if they do that, basically the way the internet protects itself is that there is a reputation score. See what I'm saying? So Google is keeping track of the unsubscribed. It's like, oh God, this unsubscribed. I received a complaint from this other customer that asked to unsubscribe, is still receiving. So basically then they get bad reputation. And then if you have a bad reputation as a sender, obviously in the future, Gmail, Yahoo, and other things are gonna put you in the spam filter and not gonna put you in the inbox of your members. So please remember, you wanna keep your online reputation and your domain name reputation, your email address reputation. So you wanna be a good citizen and play by the rules. Because if you go off the rules, well, then basically your emails will get to no one in the future because you're not a good citizen. Now, Mailchimp makes it easy to respect the rules because in a way they force the rules on us so that we stay good citizens. Now, let's discuss about the rules they say. before the rules, they say, there is a page you can see here. Some of our customers have received an email because there are new rules, and Mailchimp has been sending emails to our customers, to their customers too, about having their domain name authenticated, right? Essentially, they do that, and you can see that on the screen, because Gmail and Yahoo suddenly are tightening up their anti-spam rules, right? They want to fight spam harder. So now they say like, okay, we're going to accept the emails that come from a domain name, but only if we are sure that the person owns that domain name. So they added a few steps, which is essentially this domain authentication. We have spoken about this a little bit on a previous email, but on a previous webinar, but I want to give you more details today. Our recommendation to all villages that are with Mailchimp, go to your Mailchimp account. You cannot do this from Helpful Village, unfortunately, but you can go to your Mailchimp account, you log in there. My recommendation, because their menus are a little also overwhelming, is like there's a search field at the top. I searched verify, and when I searched verify, I had a result that said and offered me to go to this link, which is domains, add, verify, connect, or purchase a custom domain. So now don't purchase the domain name from them, because that would be another kind of worms. But you already have your domain, as we said before, with Google Domains before, Squarespace or something else. And if you have your domain somewhere else, authentication, the domain is just proving to Mailchimp that this domain is actually yours. So when you go there and you click on this link, it will open up this page, right? Also on Mailchimp. And what you should see in there is that you should have here, I have it here, it should say here, custom email domain should have your domain here. So sausalitavillage.org, and it should say authenticated if you're properly set up, right? If you're not properly set up and you're sending your emails out and it's not authenticated, well, then you need to click on this button here that says add and verify a domain. It's going to explain you how to authenticate it. Actually, most probably, I mean, not most probably, maybe there are different methods. The most common method is going to ask you to add a DNS record with whatever letters and numbers that they have to, because they want to know if you're the owner of that domain and that you have access to the DNS records of that domain. Basically, check if it's authenticated. If it's not authenticated, try to follow their steps. You get in trouble with their steps, you can always open a ticket. We can try to help you with this. Now, another thing, some of our customers are sending emails, and Mailchimp allowed this. So you can send emails from public email addresses. So basically from gmail.com or outlook.com, etc. And this is also how basically Mailchimp is explaining this. You can send, but they don't need to be verified, because obviously you don't have access to the DNS records of Gmail, Yahoo, or Hotmail, etc. Also, I need to say that they have a page there about the limitations of using free email. The limitation is essentially that your emails don't get delivered as well as when you're using your own domain, right? Because hackers do this, right? Hackers go out there, they get a free Gmail domain, and they send 2,000 emails to people, etc. It's easy, cheap, free for them. But if you need to purchase a domain name, well, even if it's only $20, the hackers don't like paying $20 on a domain that they're going to be blocked in, and that they need to buy another domain, etc. So if you're using a free email address for your Mailchimp configuration, yeah, can get out to some people, but you need to know that some people are not receiving your emails too. So you should really consider sending your Mailchimp messages out from an email address of your domain name that is authenticated. Cool. Cool. Just this. Connected domains. No, don't do that. Just this. Custom email domains should have your domain name in here, and it should say authenticated. Keep going. Okay, this is how you do it. I said this orally, but it's written here. To authenticate your domain, authenticate means to prove that it's yours, right? To Mailchimp, they're going to ask you to add a text DNS record to your domain configuration, to do your DNS settings that we saw before. And then once you are able to do that, it's like, oh yeah, you're the owner of the domain. I know that because you could do this change. This is also something I said, but I'm going to read for you. Using your own domain, as opposed to sending your emails from Gmail or any other free email addresses, and authenticating your domain name will increase the deliverability rate of your emails. Like, will it work if you use Gmail? Yeah, it will work. Now, will you have the same deliverability rate? No, you won't. Also, being a good citizen and respecting the Mailchimp life cycle, kind of respecting people that are unsubscribed, they don't want to receive stuff from you, improves your deliverability rate. There's another word I cannot pronounce. That's fun. Now, what is the deliverability rate? Let's add a math formula in here, but the simplest I could think of. So basically, deliverability rate is the number of emails that you send out, how many of those are delivered, right? So you want to have a deliverability rate of 100%. So everything that you send, you want that to reach your members out, right? So that it gets to their inbox. As I was saying before, if you have a bad reputation, or basically your reputation score, or if you're using a free email address, that will likely not be 100%, can be 80, 50, 30, 20, I don't know what's the exact number, but basically what you need to do is try to do everything you can to have an authenticated domain, to send the email from your own email addresses, and then also be a good citizen to your audience or readership, and that will increase your deliverability rate. That's super important. Okay, I need to be careful here because I messed up my slide and I need to click until it switches here. It's coming. There you go. Okay. Let me. Oof. Okay, 10 more minutes. Is everyone alive? Yes. Some people are alive. I like that. I know it's a lot today. There's a lot of concepts. I try to speak slowly and it's not, I know this is not easy. So if something goes over your head and didn't understand it fully, don't worry. It's a lot today. So we will be posting the link to Slack and it will be on YouTube and we can discuss some more about this. Okay, there is an address here. Chris, if you can find, can put this address also and put it on the chat, it would be good. This is the Mailchimp description of the different statuses that exist, right? It's starting with subscribe, but there is more statuses in Mailchimp. There's subscribe, they're listing them there. Subscribed, unsubscribed, non-subscribed, cleaned, pending, and archived, etc. So you can see the definition from them and read it in your own words, in their words. Now, these are the definitions inside Helpful Village. And obviously, some of them mirror what's happening in Mailchimp, right? So Mailchimp archived, Mailchimp cleaned, Mailchimp pending, Mailchimp unsubscribed. You will see that the first one, you can click or unclick on it. For example, if someone told you that they wanted to be added to Mailchimp, you can check that box, and suddenly now they become subscribed. So basically, the Mailchimp checkbox, it means that we want to subscribe this person, and essentially it's going to be subscribed to your mailing list. Now, the other 4 Mailchimp that you see there are read-only, meaning that you cannot check those boxes. For a good reason, right? Because basically, if you look at the last one, basically when it says Mailchimp unsubscribed, well, the person didn't want to receive your messages, and we said that we wouldn't force them to receive our messages, right? So we don't want them to basically to edit that checkbox in that way. Archive, clean, pending. I have these precise definitions in my next slide, so wait for those. I'm going to explain those. Before I switch my slide, I wanted to let you know that we're actually managing this life cycle of statuses for Mailchimp, but interestingly, we're also doing this for 2 other things. We also do it for SMS, subscribe and unsubscribe. For those that are using our text messaging module, right? It's a similar need. Essentially, you can text people, right, with your phone. So basically, Gary in near Houston, Texas, is using this very interestingly for, in case of emergency, if there is a tornado and the power is out, well, they want to be able to send a text message out to their members. But for the same reasons, there is anti-spam, anti-scam regulation. So you can only send text messages if the person has subscribed to your short messages system, so text messaging system subscription. And we also manage the unsubscription because people can say, stop, I no longer want to receive text messages from my village. So we're doing that there. And you have HV email bounced and unsubscribed because we're also managing the life cycle for the Helpful Village email. So Helpful Village sends the email out. The individual emails, we send them ourselves, right? If you have someone that did a renewal of membership, that's an individual email. So it goes out from the Helpful Village email. They can still unsubscribe from Helpful Village. If they don't want to receive anything from us, they will find a link, and we need to manage that here. And now on all the group emails that we're sending out, right? For example, for your mailing list or the list of events, even the emails that go out to your group of volunteers, they all go through Mailchimp out. So, but it's interesting that we have three basically subscription processes that are managed in similar ways inside Helpful Village. But we're gonna try to stay on Mailchimp today. And these are the definition of the different statuses on Mailchimp. I shared with you the Mailchimp page where they describe it in longer words, so you can read their definition. This is my definitions that are a little shorter, right? And also I wanted to show you what happens with a person, over time. So usually what happens, this person asks to be on your mailing list, so they want to become subscribed, or they can do it themselves also, because when they sign up for events or something like that, they offer the opportunity, or there's this other option to be added to the mailing list. We're gonna basically in Helpful Village check the Mailchimp checkbox, which in Mailchimp means that this person will be in status subscribed. Okay, as I said before, people can unsubscribe. So we are sending them on emails that we send them via Mailchimp. There will be an unsubscribe link. If they click on that link, their status on Mailchimp will become unsubscribed. Mailchimp will inform Helpful Village, and we will also check that box, which is funny because now the information comes from Mailchimp to Helpful Village. It's a complex conversation there. So cool, normal. Until here is normal, because the person can unsubscribe. Suddenly it shows unsubscribe both in Helpful Village and on Mailchimp. Now, the funny game is that sometimes people unsubscribe, they didn't want to do that, right? People do stuff accidentally. Some of your members like, oh, damn, I unsubscribed because I received this email about events, but I didn't know it would unsubscribe me from the email from volunteering. Like, well, yeah, we need, it's emails to groups, so you need to be subscribed. So basically, or sometimes they just did it and they didn't want to do it. They did something wrong and they want to be back and they want to resubscribe. So that is natural too. There is a process that is explained on our help center. So how do you do that? Because remember we said we cannot just force them to resubscribe, right? So basically there is a process that is explained on our help center. You can set up a sign up form, which is essentially on Mailchimp. You can click a form where you can add their name and their email, and then just submit, yes, accept terms, and then poof, they go back from unsubscribed to subscribe. So there is a way to do that. It's explained on our documentation. There are other statuses archived quickly here. So unsubscribed, let me clarify something. Unsubscribed is always initiated by the recipient. So if you have someone in the status unsubscribed, you can always say, okay, this is not the village that did this. This is the person themselves. They wanted to be unsubscribed. Sometimes the person will not click the unsubscribe, but simply call the office, say, well, can you please just remove me from your mailing list? If you do that at the office, right, or an administrator does this, basically that puts them in status archived, right, which is also off. They are not subscribed anymore. They will not receive the message, but it's an interesting difference. Unsubscribed is they wanted to do it. Archived was initiated by the office. Sometimes because the member asked for it, right? Or sometimes just because that person you don't want to send emails to. Maybe this person moved to Ohio, and I love Ohio, just random pick. And then basically you don't want to send messages, so basically you archive them, and then because interestingly you pay, to Mailchimp depending on the size of your mailing list. So subscribe you pay, archived I think you don't pay. You can double check that. But basically, either because the recipient asked for it or just because the office decided, this basically is archiving them, is that they are no longer subscribed. There is an interesting difference here, because if you want to go back to subscribed, going to subscribe from unsubscribed is harder, because the internet understands that this person initially didn't want to be there. So why Mailchimp is kind of double checking on you. It's like, are you sure that this guy, you're resubscribing them? Archived is easier because they know that the office, the same, basically was not initiated by the recipient of the email. So if someone is archived, it's easier to bring them back to subscribe. There's another status I'll explain quickly here, is Mailchimp cleaned. People that are in Mailchimp cleaned are no longer receiving your emails. And if you have someone that calls you and say, oh, I'm not receiving the emails from your mailing list, well, you need to look them up, right? And look at the status they have. If they're in clean, what happened is that Mailchimp tried to send an email to these people, but the emails bounced. They could not be delivered, right? This usually happened, for example, if when you were creating the member, you had a typo in the email address. Well, that email address does not exist. So Mailchimp is trying to send the emails out. They never get out. They get an error message. So just Mailchimp says, well, okay, I tried, you know, I don't know how many times, 5, 6 times. It's never working. So I decide no longer to send emails to there, basically because the email is no longer valid. It can also happen because the email is valid, but the inbox was full. But essentially just Mailchimp stops sending because kind of not working. You can bring people from clean to subscribe, etc. This is a process, but that doesn't happen that often. So basically cleaned, you need to know what it is, but you don't need to worry too much about it. This last one, pending, this one is interesting and it's also new. So we had some people that went from subscribe to unsubscribe. Then they did the sign up form, right? And the person went back to unsubscribe. But through that process, it's not perfect because basically Mailchimp still has a doubt if this person really wanted to go back on the list, right? Because basically you can go to the form and fill it out for them. Someone is on unmuted, should be muted, but I cannot take care of it. So basically what they do is that if you do the sign up form, sometimes it works and people goes back to subscribe, maybe based on your reputation. But in some cases, Mailchimp will say, wait a minute, before we put it back to subscribe, because this person is something they call a compliance status. So kind of this person had asked to be unsubscribed. Now we're trying to bring her back, but kind of Mailchimp needs extra confirmation. Extra confirmation that this person really wants on the mailing list. Now they added these other status. So when this happens, essentially what happens is that Mailchimp is not putting this person in subscribe, it's putting in pending, but they send an email out to the person asking the person to respond to that email saying, yes, I am trying to come back in, opting in. So it's kind of a super secure way, kind of doubling down on, yes, I want to resubscribe, but now Mailchimp wants to hear that from the person and not from the organization, not from the village. If someone is, to get someone out of pending, you cannot do it without the other person. If there's nothing you can do at the office. Now, something the office can do, you can call the member, right? Usually the member wants to do it, right? And then you call the member and say, well, because you're in this pending status, can you look for an email that was sent to you, right? Saying that, yeah, you really want to come back in and re-opt in, responding to that email. Oh, you found that email? Well, what does the email say? Okay, well, respond to that email saying, yes, I want to confirm, etc. So there is a way to come back from pending, but I just wanted to explain why sometimes, I had some tickets from villages saying, well, we have people in pending status, and they're still not receiving. It's like, I know, first, there's nothing I can do. Second, it's for a good reason that they're in pending. It's not Mailchimp. They don't want to be mean to you, right? They really want to send the emails. They're just trying to clean your reputation so that your emails can be delivered. So yeah, so pending, super interesting. Okay, more? Okay. This one is not a joke, but can make you laugh. We get tickets sometimes saying, well, this member, well, first, we got this member unsubscribed, but she never unsubscribed. Well, there are two things that can happen there. Some people say, well, they never unsubscribed, but some people unsubscribe. And it's like, it's hard to know if they did or did not. Sometimes we click on a link and we didn't know, or it was for this and I thought it was for that, etc. Anyways, what I'm telling you, if you have a Mailchimp unsubscribe, it's coming from the person that received the email. Now, what is interesting, and you'll find the same page is on Mailchimp. There is something that is called accidental unsubscribe. So you can read this. But if you read at the purple area here, it's like some inbox filters, which is a weird way to say some email clients, click on each link in the email. If they basically either because they're kind of the antivirus software, or they want to check for optimization and stuff like that. But some of you see what I'm saying? It is possible that sometimes, even if the person didn't click on the link, it can be possible that if they're using, I don't know what software to read their emails. I almost don't want to say names, but there are different email readers, right? There's Outlook is one you can install on your computer. I don't know if Outlook is doing this or not, but basically Mailchimp is telling you, yes, even if the person did not click on that link, it is possible that his device or his browser or whatever clicked on that link for a stupid reason and they put them in unsubscribe. Well, obviously, you see what I'm saying? I'm hoping that Outlook is smart enough not to click on something that says unsubscribe. That would be crazy to me. But that can happen. So you see what I'm saying? Just trying to help you understand that unsubscribe is not a helpful village bug. There's no line in my code that I put someone in unsubscribe. It can happen for different reasons. If that happens, all we need to focus on is how to bring back this person to subscribe again. And this can go through all these different steps that we said before. This a sign-up form is one way. In some cases, we need to go into the pending status, and the pending status will send an email, and the person needs to receive the email. It's a little complicated, cumbersome, and painful. Yes, it is. But to fight against spam and scams. Okay. This is my last slide. So I want to do a big round of applause for everyone that stayed here until the end of the meeting, because I know today is not the typical. I mean, we usually do these release webinars with features that are more oriented towards the operations of your village. And today I know we spoke a lot about, you know, Google domains and Mailchimp and technicalities of subscribe and unsubscribe. So there's a lot of technicalities today. And I know it was painful, but we needed to discuss about this because this is part of your operations, and we really want to keep using the system so that you can send the messages out. Now, the conversation stops for right now. Yeah, thank you for staying with us till the end of the webinar. We can continue the conversation on Slack. I'll try to avoid, you know, if you're asking questions about how this works, if you do it through tickets, it's just better for me not to, you see what I'm saying? I'll be sending you to Slack, because if I start having a one-on-one conversation about these questions by ticket with 25 different villages, then, you know, spend my time just typing the same message 25 times. If we do that same conversation on Slack, right? Well, then we ask this question once, I can give the answer to everybody, I mean, there on Slack, and then everyone can read it. So basically, I just need to respond to the question once, and then everyone can read that information. By the way, we are a lot more active on Slack. If you were on a Slack before, for some time, I don't know, we just, you know, we let it be as a tool where villages could talk to each other. Right now, villages talk to each other. There's a lot of very experienced village leaders that are providing answers, and Helpful Village is also more active now, providing answers and making suggestions or explaining things on Slack. So if you were on Slack before, we recommend that you go back. It's a lot more lively and active right now. If you are not on Slack, there is a dedicated Slack, which is a collaborative website where basically it's just conversations between, I guess, our villages and Helpful Village about different questions, about different topics, about different things. If you're not on Slack, you can request a Slack invite via ticket. To open a ticket, just request a Slack invite and we'll send you an invite. And then also remember that there is a Q&A webinar next week. You know, some questions are good to talk in writing. Sometimes just easier to show you stuff. And then we have another webinar where we can talk about all of this next week. So yeah, I'm expecting there will be questions so we can discuss some of this during the webinar. I know we're past the hour, but I see there are 2 raised hands, so I can stay for a couple more minutes to answer the questions live. But essentially, if someone needs to go, you can also go. So, okay, I have the questions of Margie. I don't know if you have a question,
No, I don't. I was reminding you.
It worked perfectly. So your reminder came to my mind as soon as I saw you raising the hand. Thank you very much. So I'll stay a few more minutes to show this template for renewals with the Microsoft Word. But before I go there, I wanted to see, because we have a question from San Luis Obispo.
So right now in our Helpful Village, we have, I wrote this in the chat, but we have 22 contacts that are Mailchimp sync, but
Okay.
they're not in Mailchimp. How do we fix this?
It's a great question. Now,
yeah.
Okay, so first, it's a very good question in the sense that I understand generally the question. I didn't understand kind of precisely the exact question. I understand. Let me try to rephrase it. You have some people. I mean, first you have your Mailchimp account, and your Mailchimp account is connected with Helpful Village. So that is the case, right? Now, you have people that have this Mailchimp checkbox checked, right?
Correct.
And then these people probably belong to some groups or tag people groups and stuff like that, right?
Correct.
Now you can sync either the group or the mailing list, etc. And this also go into the group and you click on sync. I assume you already did this, right?
Yeah.
Now, for each one of those groups, right, you will see the people in that group. Only the people in that group, they need to have 2 conditions so you can add a person to that group, but we're only sending that information to Mailchimp in some cases with 2 conditions. One condition is that they need to have the Mailchimp checkbox checked, See what I'm saying? And the second one is that they need to have a real valid email. See what I'm saying? If they don't have an email address, we're not sending them to Mailchimp because there is no point. You see what I'm saying? In sending that person in. So if you go to that group, there is a checkbox mark. Remember? The checkbox mark set. I can show this. Let me show my screen. Wait, where is my browser? Wait. Well, let me. Okay, I have a browser. Let me share it. Okay, so browser. I'm gonna go to demo. And I'm logged in as an admin, right? So I can go to people management groups. And then if I go to groups, you come here, you know that there are different type of groups. These are the volunteer activities, volunteer services. I have my drivers here, village builders, tag people, etc. In tag people, you have Mailchimp, etc. And then you have some mailing lists. If I go to active members, right, and I click on that group, you see I have all these members are in a mailing list called members. But you see this column here, it says Mailchimp and valid email. So this person, Christina, basically, she's a member. And this check mark is here. And there is no check mark on these records right here. Jessica, Jess, David Beckham, etc. Now, the reason for that is these two conditions here. This is the Mailchimp checkbox and a valid email. If I click on Christina, right? I see that she has a valid email, right? And then I can see also that her Mailchimp checkbox is checked. So the two conditions are okay. So the first thing for you to check is that if you take to the member there, go to that group. If this check mark is not here, right? You click on their name. And then two things can happen. So basically, she in this case, you have a real valid email address, but the Mailchimp checkbox is not checked. So I'm not syncing with Mailchimp. See what I'm saying? It's normal that this person is not on Mailchimp because this is a condition is to have this checked. For some other members, if I try this one, Everett, no, I cannot do it randomly. But what I mean is that in some cases, what happens is that you can have here and here if you have an email.com. Update. Okay, you see, so for some of your members, if they never had an email address, they can be looking like this. This person does not have an individual email address. If you don't have an email address, again, we're not sending them to Mailchimp. Okay, so that's the first thing to check, right? Is should this person be on Mailchimp? Now, if this person has both conditions, right? And then you go and you sync that group, right? And then suddenly you're, let me do it with you actually. So admin, people management groups. This is my list of handy person. Same thing that I was saying before. So these people have the Mailchimp checkbox and a valid email. This person, no. So this will not be synchronized. These people, all these should be on Mailchimp. If I go to back down here, I have the possibility to add this group to Mailchimp and then sync this group with Mailchimp, right? And then when you do that, well, is at that moment in time that we're sending, well, this information and this tag to Mailchimp. If after you do that, if you have the check mark here that is set to, okay, you look at the profile, right, of this person. And when you look at the profile of this person, you look at the Mailchimp things here. You see what I'm saying? If they are unsubscribed or pending or clean or archived, well, you know already what is kind of happening. You see what I'm saying? But now, if the case is, well, you have Mailchimp here is checked, they have a valid email, they're on that group, you click sync. By the way, you can sync from the group. You can also sync from the person. If you come down here, there is a link that is kind of hidden here, but you can say Mailchimp sync this person, and you can click on that link. It's gonna sync basically here. We successfully sync Christina with his email address with Mailchimp, and you have an error. So basically, I would also recommend after you check the checkbox and the valid email address, you click on sync this person with Mailchimp, right? And this is, at this time, we're trying to sync this person with Mailchimp. And then you look in Mailchimp, is it in Mailchimp? If it's in Mailchimp, well, then it's all good. If it's not on Mailchimp, then that would be a bug, right? So from that moment, then basically you need to open a ticket and send it to us saying, hey, first send us the name, right? So like, I have this person called Jose Miguel, whatever. I looked, and this would be the ideal ticket. I looked at the checkboxes. He has the Mailchimp checkbox checked, and he has a valid email address. I click on Mailchimp sync, and this person is still not showing in my group. Here it's kind of funny because you see this person has been archived in the past.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, but we need names because yeah, basically to double check. But basically there is a process, and depending on what happened here, if the person was archived, and then basically now I hit Mailchimp sync.
Sounds like our
You see?
IT guy, Dave, will need a collaborative meeting, so.
Okay. But you see what happened here? Basically, this person had been archived before in the status that we got from Mailchimp, and now I kind of click on this checkbox, saved, clicked on Mailchimp sync this person, and now it's on Mailchimp, so now it should be in Mailchimp with the subscribe status. So we got it out from archive and it got into Mailchimp subscribe. Okay, cool. Now I'm telling you, and I also said this during the webinar, the Mailchimp synchronization, stuff like that is kind of, is a piece of something. See what I'm saying? So yeah, kind of, it's a complicated concept and stuff like that is important, but yeah, but we can help you with this. Cool. Perfect. Was a good question. So yeah, so basically, how about we do that? Try with those people. If you come across a person where you're not having a behavior you were expecting, you can open a ticket with that specific name. We'll look at that specific name until we understand. And then besides that, we have a webinar next week also. We can, answer that question or any other question. I mean, we cannot deal during the webinar, we cannot deal with a specific case, we cannot share the screen with the name of a real person and stuff like that, with a real email address for privacy reasons. But if it's a general question I can answer on demo, I can definitely answer that on demo. Cool. Okay. Well, thank you. Oh, Margie, it's good. Okay.
I'm a nag.
You're good. You're good. The best thing I did is asking you to remind me. So basically, let me see here. Cool. Okay. So something you can do, right? I'm going to skip the email templates for auto renewal by email because I'm assuming everyone knows. If you don't know, you should look at email templates for membership renewal because that's the best way, because automatic goes out. You don't need to do anything for your members that have, work with emails. For a member that does not work with email, you can come here, you can come to Docs, right? To the Docs tab. And at the bottom of the Docs tab, you can apply a template for snail mail, okay? Basically, the template that can be applied here need to be uploaded to this folder here. This is a Word template in Docs library. So you have a Docs library, right? That is here, admin documents library, right? And then if you go into documents library, you have several folders, etc. There's one particular folders where you have the Word templates in Docs library. If I click here, it will take me to the specific folder, I'm hoping, where basically I can upload my Word documents you have been working on, okay? Once you have uploaded your Word document template to this folder, right? You can come down here and then you can apply one of the templates that you have created and then hit apply template and download. And then when you do that, basically it's gonna download a Word document where we have replaced the expiration dates, the membership types, the fees and stuff like that. Now, the problem is, let me see, I'm gonna need to show you Microsoft Word. Okay, give me a second, because basically I have an example of the Word document, but I cannot show you with the real names, so I need to scrap the names. Give me a second. Okay, I'm gonna share a different screen. Okay, so this is an example of a template. By the way, I'm going to thank the village that is working on this. So Margie did this. So she has her own template, but because she's looking at me with her fixed eyes, I cannot use her template. I'll use a different one.
You could use mine if you wanted.
Yeah, no, I just found this one was open. We did this for them too. So this is Potomac Community Village in Maryland. And basically they created this Word template, right? That looks like this. It's just a simple Word document, right? And they added their image here. So this is their logo and the header that they wanted to add in there. That's all good. And then they come in here and they put the text that they want. So the text is whatever language they want to talk about. We're glad to have you as part of growing community, whatever. So very good, nice language. But then the magic is that you can add some variables to that Word document, right? So basically here they're saying dear, and all of these things here are helpful village fields, right? So for this member, we have what is their mailing name. We have their address number, the home address street, the home address city, home address state, zip code, etc. And then we're saying your membership, and then is another variable here, your individual membership is expiring soon, and then we're pulling the membership expiration date from the database. So it's kind of, so it's really cool because basically you don't need to type the whole Word document. You just need to use a template and we're gonna fill in and replace all these variables from the information in the database. So just, if you apply the template, you just, all the values will be correct. You just download and it will go out. And you just print it, put it in an envelope, send it out. Okay, now, what is the challenge with this? And we got a few tickets about this, including Margie's, is basically that when you're creating this Word document, right, you're gonna type these variables like home address, etc. It's kind of tedious to type all of this because obviously these variable names have these long names, and you need to put the stars and the bars, star bars, etc. Whatever. And then basically Word is showing you the text that they have here, and this is kind of, it looks good, but in the behind the scenes, the Word document code is just messy. And if you type it in, right, or you copy paste from a different document, they are creating some crap in here. By the way, let me see. No, I don't have it here. But I'll just ask you to believe me that basically on kind of, if you type here, Microsoft is adding some crazy nuts code in the middle. So basically what happened in Margie's case that I remember is that she typed it, the document looked great, like this one, right? But then basically Word had created something weird where basically they had home address, street, and then they had added some crappy code before the star, and then they had star, some more crappy code, and then they had bar, home address, zip code. So what happened then is when our code was going in there, we couldn't find the variables anymore because Microsoft had added some weird code in the middle, etc. So it was just not clean. So basically the challenge here is like, how can we create a Word document template? How can you create a Word document template where basically Microsoft is not doing anything weird or funny in the middle? So if you come in here and you type it, you go here and say, okay, star, and I did this with Margie. I was heartbroken because I asked her to type this very carefully. You see what I'm saying? Not copy paste, and then kind of at once just do this, and then the star, and then do something and whatever star. But even if you do it by typing Word, even if you do nothing, Word is gonna add some crazy stuff in the middle, etc. So the whole challenge is how to get the text at once. So basically, my recommendation, this is the trick I wanted to show at the webinar, is that first you type your whole document like this on Word, just like Margie had done, as you can see here. But then once it's typed, it will look good to you, but actually in the background doesn't look good. So you need to do this. I need to share my whole screen. How do I share desktop? Okay, cool. You need to go here to your Word document. You need to take everything you wrote here that looks good. You take this. I copy this, everything that you have in here. You need to go through a text editor like this. Okay. So on a Mac, I use a Mac. So this text edit on Windows, I don't remember. It's something like Notepad or something like that. But kind of some editor that is WordPad. So something that doesn't have any features of a bold, underline, it's just pure text. But then when you copy your text here, it will look like this. And this here shows beautifully, but when you do it with a regular Word, it will have some, here it is possible that it's showing some weird characters here and stuff like that. So you clean up your text so that it's all at once here looking good in just text. And then at the end, just come down here, copy everything, And when you're copying everything, just go back to the Word document you had before. You remove everything you had here, and then you just basically take the whole copy paste at once from the text only editor, right? And then you bring it onto your Word document all at once. So I'm not typing, tag, or giving Word to the chance to do anything weird. Just come in and I paste the whole text all at once. See what I'm saying? So it's not messing in between my stars and stuff like that. I can do some adjustment like this, but I would discourage you to do any kind of change here where saying, oh my God, there's a space here. I'm going to hit something here. Because the more you click on Word, the more crazy it will going to go. So prepare your document on Word, get your text ready with the variables you want, etc. Now, before uploading it to Helpful Village, go to your text editor only, put it here. Now you clean your stuff, your spaces, you make sure that all your text and orthograph, typos, and everything is good. When you have the text only version is good for you, you take it from here, you paste it on the Word document, you save your Word document, you upload to Helpful Village, and then you have a better chance that when you're using it on Helpful Village, all your variables will be replaced. If you don't do it, our software will not find the variables, and then basically we'll have some stupid variables in there. So it's just a trick. Again, it's kind of funny that we deal with this topic today, because again, it's not very fun. I don't like doing webinars like this, where we're talking about technicalities and about how Microsoft. The other thing that is funny is that in only one webinar, I found a way to make enemies at Microsoft, Google, and Mailchimp. So if this video doesn't upload to YouTube, you see, it's like kind of, I tried.
Congratulations.
No, but they're all great companies, but obviously, we try our best to simplify these technicalities for you so that you don't need to take care of that. But some of the things have a level of complexity, and we want you to understand what we're doing.
Hi, Manuel. My templates are still not working. I know you were looking at them. I just tried them, and it's still giving me the error. Something went wrong.
So I'll go in there. I found kind of a mini bug that needs. So you should not get an error. So thank you. So I'll fix that for you. I have a new version where I can put it to you, and you will not get the error.
Okay, great.
Now, but I want to just add a little detail here. The error you got, you should not have. I'll fix it. I'll send it to you, and if it's still there, you need to let me know. We'll fix it. Now, even if my code is perfect and it's working, etc., if there is a different kind of problem, see what I'm saying? That is what I was trying to solve here. Is like if you get some of these variables that are not being replaced, in that case, you don't get an error message. You get a Word document where some of the variables didn't replace. In that case, biggest chances is that not my code, because I'm replacing all these variables that you have here are beautifully working for Potomac and stuff like that. So in that case, I would recommend, try this trick to have a super clean Word document template. And then hopefully the variables will replace much better. It's what worked for Margie, what worked for Potomac here, etc. But let's see, I definitely, if you get an error message, it's me.
What breaks it? Because ours was working fine for a couple of years.
Yes.
So what makes it break?
Okay, give me a second, because this is what I wanted to show you before. If anyone needs to go, you can all go, because this is kind of extra weird stuff we're doing. Oh, actually, I'm sharing my full screen. I forgot that. Look, this is a Word document. It's all this. The Word document that you're creating, right? You create it on your editor, but inside it has all these other files inside. Word, style, settings, media, theme, footer, header, endnotes, foot, etc. The actual document is here. Is this thing? Is here. I'm gonna open it here. This is my code editor, and this is what Microsoft is doing in the background. They're doing XML version, Word, whatever, and then inside there, right? You see, this is what happens. They have all this code here for whatever, and then they have times new Roman, size 28, val, whatever, and then a star, bar, home address, street, bar address, and then more crap. So the thing that breaks it is just Microsoft puts a ton of craps in between every variables. And this is kind of one document that is clean, because what they do sometimes is that they put their crap like this, right? They put it here. See what I'm saying?
But what if I uploaded a document as a template and it worked fine?
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden it isn't working. I didn't put anything new in there because it was the same
Yeah.
template that we always had.
Yes, but there are changes in the libraries that do the replacements in the Word document. So there are things that change over time, etc. In all cases, right? What in all cases always in all cases we need to know that Microsoft Word is creating some mess in the background, right? That is kind of invisible. It's always harder to make it work if you let Microsoft to do, all these messy things in the back. The best way to have a clean Microsoft Word document that has better chances to be working well is to do this, the least actions or buttons or clicking or edits on Microsoft, the better. Just do it on a text editor. You have everything looking good. Boom, I copy paste all at once. Then if I can't leave without, you can try, I would say save that one, right? And if you try it, it works. Oh, beautiful. And then if you want to start taking risk and say, oh my God, I have a typo here. Let me remove the comma from here, and then remove the comma. You don't on Word, right? Because you don't see the code that is in behind the scenes. But then obviously, then you start having chances of Microsoft Word going crazy, adding these Times New Roman. Why do they add Times New Roman 25 times in there? I don't know. See, this is kind of stuff that was insane. Oh, by the way, there's another thing. Maybe before we go, one more thing, because I remember I did this for you, to Margie. Part of the trick for the hardcore listeners. I had done two things. I had created the document here. By the way, I know we use the word template because in the end, for me, it's a template because you upgrade to Helpful Village and it will replace the variables and stuff like that. But for Word, this is a normal document. You don't need to save it because you can save in Word something as templates, as something. No, you save it as a regular docx document, right? So that's one thing you need to do. The other thing that I remember I did for you is that I copy pasted something, and then I think I did something like this where I selected everything, and then I came here and I say, okay, I want to change everything, all the fonts, and put them in. You can change the style. You see what I'm saying? And then say, well, I want to have everything in Times New Roman or whatever you have. But basically, again, you see what I'm saying? The least changes possible. And then if you do changes, select all. You see what I'm saying? Even here, I selected everything, but I should have done select all, which is, command all. And then you do command all, and you do Times New Roman. Because if you do one by one, if you do this, right? And then you do Times New Roman, then basically Microsoft is creating code so that they say from here to here is Times New Roman, but from here to here is Arial. And then they start adding crap in the middle and stuff like that. So again, copy paste all the text as all of it as text at once, and try to do modification for the whole document in as few clicks as possible. Cool. Okay, perfect. So that was a lot. That was a big fat webinar today.
Yeah, well, I want to tell you something that I figured out that might help other people.
Okay, cool.
We do our weekly email that goes out.
Yes.
My boss writes it up in Word, and then she sends me the text, and then I immediately go through and I do all that. I get rid of all the trash before, and I copy and paste the whole thing at one time and put it into Helpful Village. And I've discovered that a couple of characters will always make it break. And it's if you use the quotes that are curved, you have to make sure it's the straight quotes. Like if it automatically sets to the curvy quotes, it will always break and it won't work. Like it will not work on the email. So that's just something that I spent hours trying to figure out. I finally figured it out.
Yeah.
So great quotes.
Yeah, fun stuff. Was tough one today. Usually, last webinar we're discussing about IOUs. We click on this button, on this feature, and stuff like that. It was all fun, and today was like, Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I'm sorry we went, past the hour so late, but and it was great seeing you all. I see Sherry and Christy and Ava that are kind of new friends that we have. So that is great seeing you here. Okay.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
rest of
you.
the day. Bye-bye.
Bye.